Also covering the Olympics for NBC is Ato Boldon, former Olympic track athlete, four-time Olympic medal winner. And welcome, Ato. How you doing?
I'm not doing bad. I'm doing a lot better after last night, that's for sure.
Unbelievable. I mean, what were you expecting with the 100-meter last night with that unbelievable field?
I can tell you that up until very recently, I really felt like Blake had a legitimate chance. And then I started to see everybody sort of drink the Johan Blake Kool-Aid. And I said, wait a second. This is Usain Bolt we're talking about. And every time he's been on the big stage with everybody watching, he's delivered, with the exception being last year when he false started out. And, you can't hold that against him. And I went back and I looked at his performances when it's under the utmost pressure. And I said, you know what? Not only is he not going to lose, we're going to look at this race and say, why did we ever doubt him? So I was pretty convinced in the last 5 or 6 days that Bolt would win, and he would win easily. I felt like the world record was safe, but I knew it would take something fast to win with the sort of field that was assembled.
All right, so Blake beat Bolt twice before, correct?
Yes, he beat him at the Jamaican Olympic trials at the 100, and then the real shocker, he beat him at 200, which is an event that Bolt hasn't lost at in about 5 years.
All right, now, why does Bolt suddenly win the gold here when he loses twice to Blake? Does he just wait for the big stage?
No, it's not that. It's that you caught an athlete like Bolt who was clearly not having a good weekend. The Jamaican Olympic trials happened. Those two races happened in the space of about 3 days. So he had a bad weekend. Maybe he was out too long. Maybe he had a fight with his girlfriend, and he had 2 bad races. But I think people were reading so much into it. So it's like, okay, are you going to pay attention more to the weekend that he had that was bad, or the last 4 years when he's lost a grand total of 2 races?
Otto, try to explain this to me. And I know he's one of the greatest of all time. How does Usain Bolt get off to a slow start where he's out of the gate 6th, I believe, in only 100 meters and ends up winning the race? How does that happen?
Well, Usain Bolt, first of all, everybody else has to take 44 steps to go from 0 to 100 meters. He has to take 41. So already you're up against it because he literally has less work to do than you. But we use the wheel example all the time. If you think of the wheel of a tractor, it's a much bigger wheel. Think of the wheel now of, say, a Mini Cooper. Well, that wheel is going to get going and start turning fast, but it's not covering as much ground. Now think of that tractor trailer, and that wheel is now beginning to make those revolutions. Think of how much ground it's going to cover with each revolution. So he doesn't have to be the first out of the blocks. Those guys with the smaller wheels, the shorter guys who are not 6'5", and he's the only one that's that height, when he gets going, it's almost an inevitability, and that's why it's such a shock when he loses, because he really has to have an awful night to lose. So the reason why it doesn't matter usually if Bolt gets just an average start is because he has less steps to take, so he's more than likely going to catch anybody that's out ahead of him.
We're going to talk to Justin Gatlin a little bit later on, but if you're a Gatlin, you're a Blake, you're a Gay, you look at this thing, do you take pleasure in going out and just, if it can win the silver, I can win the bronze, I'm content because that's probably the best it's going to be?
Listen, I was in my senior year of college, I was in the race against Michael Johnson in '96 in Atlanta, and I lost to a crazy world record that was way ahead of its time. And, it's one of my proudest moments, even though I was only 3rd in that race. And I think that, somebody like Justin Gatlin, he set a personal best last night. That's the best he has ever run. He's 30 years of age, and he's had a long layoff from the sport. He should take great consolation in how well he ran last night. And for Johan Blake, well, he's not that old. He's 21 years old, and he just ran 9.75. He's already the 4th fastest man ever, and he too set a personal best. So Gatlin, I thought, had a phenomenal race. I said before the race went off that 3 people would not beat him. He proved me right, and he's a gamer. Justin Gatlin now has the Olympic gold and bronze. The number of guys who have 2 Olympic medals from the Olympic Games in the 100 that's not a very big club.
Can Bolt get faster?
Bolt can get faster. Last night was his 2nd best performance. There are a lot of things that he does technically wrong, but because he's so talented, he can get away with it. It's like watching a guy who doesn't shoot a perfect jump shot in terms of technical form, but he's still making threes. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to tamper with it? Bolt can go faster. I think his limits may be in the 9.4s or maybe the low 9.5s, and that of course is bad news for everybody else.
Ato, we were talking about this off the air earlier. How do you prepare for something like this? You obviously can't have a gun and somebody still with a. How do you practice? The starting pistol? Do you have somebody you hire? What do you do to practice on a regular basis?
Yeah, I can assure you that, and trust me, it makes for some great scenes at airports at times. Sprinters usually carry a starter pistol, that shoots blanks in their bags, and no matter where they are in the world, if they're touring Europe or Asia or Australia, whatever, and they're competing, they have somebody who, if they have a day of start practice, they get in those blocks a lot and practice that start technique, and that's why it's such a beautiful thing to watch when we show you those slow motion replays on the night of the Olympic final, because these guys have literally done thousands of those starts, practicing on staying low and really pushing out of those blocks and overcoming that inertia in the first 30 before they really get up to the faster part of the race.
You're a four-time Olympic sprint medal winner. What are you thinking? What is your mindset as you're on the blocks and you're hearing those words set and waiting for that gun?
Well, hopefully before you even get into the blocks, it's really like a choreographed dance. You have to think of where you want your body to be at each position, and you have to also think about what your tendencies and what your weaknesses, for example, may be. A guy like Justin Gatlin, he knows he's going to be out early, and he was out early, but he also knows Bolt is going to be coming, and more than likely Blake is going to be coming. So he's not just worried about, okay, I have to stay low, respond well to the gun, keep myself down for the early part when I have to be really pushing against that track. But then once I get up, and I know these guys are coming, relax, because if you tighten up, that makes them come even quicker, and it can make them pass you. So it's a lot of, it may seem to the layperson that these guys are just getting out here, they're fast, and they just run, and whatever, however they perform that night, that determines how they finish. But there's a lot of thought and effort and planning that goes into it, and the one who's able to keep a level head is usually the ones that end up on the podium with Olympic medals.
As you're working as a broadcaster, you're not that far removed from it, a little over a decade. I'm wondering, do you sit there and say, man, I think I can still do it?
Absolutely not, because if I could still do it, I would still be doing it. When I retired in 2004, my body had enough. I had run 28 times under 10 seconds for 100 meters. That was second best all time at the time. These guys are a new generation, and my generation did not run this fast. My generation ran 9.79 for the world record. That would have gotten you third last night, and prior to that, the world record was 9.84. If you ran 9.84 last night, you would have been fifth. So no, I don't look at it and think, oh yeah, I could do this. I look at it and go, I got out in time, and let me admire and appreciate the next generation.
Well, why is that? Is that just training? Is it? Has anything changed with the track surface?
The track surface is a big part of it, and I actually have an older track and the track that they are running on in the booth. I may get a chance to show the fans on television what the difference is, but the track that they ran on last evening and what these Olympians are running on here in London is made by a company called Mondo, who has been providing Olympic tracks since 1976. I had them in my office in South Florida explaining to me how great this track was, but it's almost like a car salesman telling you the newest model is the greatest. It's like, what else are they going to say? But I'm telling you, it has proven this far to be one of the best tracks. There have been almost 100 now personal bests and national records set on this track. And last night was a good example. The difference in the technology in terms of the track is that this track gives a lot better return of energy in a forward direction. So basically what it means is when these guys put that foot down into the track, it gives them a better bounce forward. And I think, if you look at the times, 9.98 last night got you 7th place. So this is the fastest overall race ever, and I think it speaks volumes about just how fast that track is.
So basically what you tell me is the track is a performance enhancer then, right? I mean,
in the in the same way that, if you look in the pool, they had the suits 4 years ago that were providing really fast times, and they know a lot more about how to keep the temperature of the pool and the depth of the pool. It's the same way. Everybody wants to see records, and you kind of have to keep the sport moving forward. So in track and field, they try to come up with, lighter shoes and better shoes. And of course, the training plays a big part in that. We've never seen a freak like Usain Bolt in terms of a guy 6'5" who can turn his legs over that fast. But they're always going to be trying to find better surfaces and that sort of stuff to make these guys able to go faster. Let's just say it's not a fair comparison to compare Bolt to Jesse Owens, because Jesse Owens ran, you have to dig his own. They weren't starting blocks. You had to dig his own holes in the ground, and then he had to run on dirt or on cinders. So it's not a fair fight. What Usain Bolt ran last on is a state-of-the-art surface.
Ato Boldon, one more question to ask you, because now that you're a broadcaster, and I know how it works at the Olympics, you're constantly rushing to get that ride to where you're going next. If you were 100 meters away and Dan Patrick was 100 meters away from the ride to get back to the hotel, who would be able to get that ride first?
I don't think that's any doubt. I've seen Dan since we've been here, and remember, I only retired 8 years ago, not 80. So wow. I'm pretty sure I'd have that over Dan. Sorry, Dan.
How many yards would you beat him by? 30, 40, 50?
At least 30. At least 30. Sorry, Dan. I don't want to pick on you while you're away.
Yeah, that's okay. Ato, it's great talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your stay over there. Enjoy the rest of the week. Should be some lot of fun races this week. Thank you.
I think so. Thanks a lot for having me.
You got it. Ato Boldon, NBC Sports, and you'll catch all of his stuff.